did with J.D. Vance, the approximation of J.D. Vance, because I want to get a sense of him. And considering he names stuff like with Peter Thiel, like very Tolkien-esque names, I'm guessing he likes fantasy. And there's that tendency of this part of the right invoking fantasy for the purposes of invoking a simpler time of some sort. So let's see how he does with an immersive, simpler time of the 70s and 80s of D&D gaming and the world that we create together. Roll up the myth maker, please. No. Okay, let's go.
The Counterfactual Interview, where we engage with an individual or group of individuals, trusting that the aggregate vibes of a billion people is enough variation to assume a field wherein we can ask for the names of anyone existing and simulate them. The resulting simulation may not yield an exact biography, but will have enough.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so complete with weeks.
List two friends, complete with a paragraph long bio and the character with which they will be playing today. Friend 1, Belle Fisher Sommerman, was born in San Francisco, but raised all over the world until she was 10. Her mother was a social worker, and her father, a career military officer. Belle struggled with substance abuse growing up and even attempted to kill herself twice during her teen years, eventually landing in a rehab center in Connecticut before making her way out to Los Angeles and joining the acting industry. She found herself a stable place in the community of sober actors and producers that exist there, working on shows like Stranger Things, Mine, Hunter, and Ozark.
Ooh.
Her most notable role is currently starring as Amber Hefner on Expose the Sexual Exploits of Hef and His Hot Wives, a satirical comedy about the Playboy Mansion that she landed right when COVID hit and put a pause on most other productions. She's grateful for the opportunity to entertain, but also enjoys being involved in her local chapter of OP and trying to pass on some of her experience to new members. Friend to Luke Jackson grew up in rural Virginia, spending most of his youth hunting and fishing with his father before joining the Marines when he was 18. He spent 4 years as a Marine sniper, specializing in night missions. After being discharged, he moved to New York City, where he attended Columbia University for a degree in photography, ultimately focusing on taking portraits and documentary work. Jackson moved to Los Angeles 5 years ago and has found a new hobby of D&D through his friend Belinda, who introduced him to the game. Today, he will be playing his character Gandalin Fireheart, a half-elf paladin dedicated to protecting the weak and defending his home country of Elven Spain. Guess! J.D. Vance, thank you kindly for the introduction. Dungeon Master, sounds like you've got a good crew here. But before we get started, I want to remind everyone that this is not just an interview. It is a debate between two very different views, and it is my hope that by the end of today, we will be able to have a healthy discussion and a greater understanding of each other's viewpoints. Endorphin, Belle, And what character will you be playing with today? Belle, oh, this sounds like a fantastic idea. My character for today's debate will be Vela Shadowfoot, a half-elf rogue and part-time baker. Who's great Luke. Luke, yeah, I don't really have a character prepared, since this was a spur-of-the-moment thing. But I guess I'll be playing myself, just to be an example of the regular Joe.
No, you already have. Hold on. You see, Luke. You already pitched your character. Okay, to sum up, Belle. Bella Shadowfoot, half-rogue, rogue, and part-time baker. Okay. And then from his character sheet, which Endorphin is reviewing. There we go. Let's see what happens.
Endorphin, don't be silly, Luke. You already pitched your character. Okay, to sum up. Belle.
Hold on. Sheet. Character sheet. My bad. From his character, as in his human character, but character sheet, meaning his fantasy avatar.
Kelpie Blackhoof, a human fighter who once served in the king's army until he was disgraced and banished for treason. Endorphin! Nice job, everyone. Well then, with that in mind, shall we begin? Our debate will be on the issue of America's handling of the war in Afghanistan. J.D. Vance and Belle, let's start with you two. You have a very different stance on this issue. Belle, oh yeah. Endorphin, both of you roll for rhetoric. Belle, natural 19, baby. Luke, 20. Endorphin. Belle, you get the first opening argument. Please keep it clean, but speak your truth. JD, don't worry. It sounds like they've done their homework. Belle, thank you, JD. Now, the topic of today's debate is the war in Afghanistan. Since 2001, our nation has been involved in a mission to stabilize and assist the Afghan people in bringing democracy to their country. But the question remains, is it working? Is our current strategy successful or even viable? My view is that yes, it has been, and it's been successful to this point. Our actions have brought stability, education, healthcare, and a higher level of living to many Afghani people. I believe it's been important to invest in those things and prioritize them over military solutions. Additionally, withdrawing too soon could put American lives at risk, as terrorists and other enemies could take advantage of the situation. That's what's happened with so many other countries that have left too early. Luke, I wholeheartedly disagree with your view. While you say that America is improving lives for the Afghani people, I think the proof is in the pudding. The war in Afghanistan has been going on for almost 24 years, and progress has been slow, if not non-existent. The situation has worsened over the years, with more insurgent attacks and terrorist organizations growing in number. Even in the case of education and healthcare, it's difficult to measure whether we're achieving success since we don't know how many people are actually utilizing these services. It's also hard to justify continuing the war when we're clearly not achieving our goals. We've even had our most recent president publicly admit that the war was a mistake. Endorphin. Okay, that's a good start. Let's take a moment for JD to make a rebuttal. JD, thank you, Doom. Endorphin. Endorphin. No, and JD, roll for rhetoric. JD, I was hoping to be gracious and wait my turn, but okay. It's a natural 19, folks. Endorphin. Okay, cool. Proceed. JD. Thank you. So I would like to counter both of my friends here. Bell, I understand where you're coming from and the importance of trying to make improvements. However, in my opinion, our country needs to focus more on strategic planning than on pouring money and resources into a country that isn't responding well. Luke, while I don't necessarily disagree with your points about withdrawing early, I believe we have to make sure our allies are fully equipped and have enough protection to handle the transition. We need to plan this withdrawal properly and not just cut and run, leaving chaos in our wake. That said, I still believe that staying longer in Afghanistan could put too much strain on our military and create even more issues down the line. Endorphin, thank you all for sharing your perspectives on the Afghan war and its future. We're going to pause for a quick food and bathroom break, but let's come back in 10 minutes sharp. Meanwhile, do you mind if I grab a photo with all of you? Oh, sure. A selfie from a selfie stick later. Endorphin. Okay, be back in 10. Endorphin prepares his workstation. Luke, can we keep this photo as a campaign poster or something? That would be super fun. Diddy, I bet we could find a way to use it for that. Good idea, Luke. Endorphin, you guys are hilarious. Now we're back on track for today's final discussion. Our guest will be discussing the issue of healthcare in America. Everyone, roll for rhetoric. JD, 20. Folks, Bell, another natural 19. Luke, I'm up to 19 again. Endorphin, Luke, your character's name is Gandolin. Don't forget about your name. Luke, my name is Luke. I don't see why I have to use a character's name here. Endorphin. Oh, sorry. Luke, you're right. Luke, my bad. Endorphin. Hold on. What's up with these dice? Only 19s and 20s. JD. This is one wild group. Endorphin. I'm going to roll them again just to be sure. JD. Whispers, they're fixed. Endorphin. What did you say, JD? No. 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 They're all good. Don't worry. Endorphin. All right, everyone. Let's proceed with today's debate on healthcare. JD and Bell, please discuss. JD, yes, of course. Healthcare is incredibly important for every single American citizen. And yet, the current system we have in place leaves many without adequate care access or means to seek the care they need. Bell, absolutely. That's why I firmly believe in universal health care. This way, everyone can get the health care they need, and there are no financial barriers to accessing it. As it stands, the current system is only accessible to the wealthiest or people with the best insurance. That's simply not fair. JD, but what about the cost? Universal healthcare would mean that everyone would have to contribute financially, even if taxes were raised for healthcare. That doesn't ensure that there would be enough money to cover everything. And who pays the price if there isn't? Well, that's why we need to focus on streamlining costs and implementing programs to ensure everyone has access to affordable healthcare. Additionally, we can utilize funding for research, prevention, and other things to prevent unnecessary healthcare costs down the line. Endorphin. Excellent. Luke, any thoughts? Luke? Sure. Yeah. I mean, while it's important to look at healthcare access, there are some issues to address within our system itself. Like JD said, costs can be high. There are also issues with long wait times for appointments and insurance restrictions that limit people's ability to receive care. So before we try to change everything, let's figure out what's working and what's not so we can make improvements instead of completely scrapping the system. Endorphin. Very well said, Luke. Any closing thoughts, Bell and JD? JD. I believe that while we need to keep improving our healthcare system, we can't afford to sacrifice patient care in the process. We can't go with the status quo, but we also can't rush blindly into something new without knowing what we're getting into. Bell, totally. And while there are a lot of moving parts to figure out in terms of implementing a new system, I believe that ultimately providing everyone with healthcare that they can rely on is the most important thing and should take priority. Endorphin. Well, everyone, that was an insightful discussion on healthcare in America. Thank you for sharing your perspectives with us. This has been a really enlightening session. Thank you all for joining us and sharing your valuable time. Don't forget to pick up a t-shirt or two before you go. And thank you to our guest, JD Vance, for joining us today. May God bless you and your family and your mission to bring hope and stability to the people of America.
Okay, well, a little boring. So let's punch it up. Let's start with you. Okay, that's a good place to zoom. Fork it, and then we're going to change the temperature. See what 2 gives us. Because they didn't use their characters at all, they just spoke as themselves.
Well, now that we have our 3 debaters set, how about you and the other friend introduce yourselves a bit? Friend name 1, I will be participating through my friend Zola, who I assume you have asked to come play a character for the purpose of the Counterfactual Interview. She's running a little late, but we both understand that the concept of being summoned at a moment's notice can be intimidating for new participants, even as exciting it is for all.
Sorry. Get that out. Now, let's see what happens. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah, that's right. JD tried to reframe it.
Great choice, Cowboy! The 3 guests and Luke laugh as Endorphin rolls their character's name on the mouth. Luke gives JD a playful tap on his shoulder, and Endorphin clears the throat and says, "Thank you for being so amenable. Let's move along." For the remainder of the campaign, you, Bell, Gandolin, and Kelpie traverse multiple
Day 1 of the campaign begins, which is described exhaustively.
Endorphin, the group travels through the forest together, taking in a crisp breeze and watching the trees overhead turn from burnt emerald to crimson, burnt sienna and ochre. They are silent, lost in thought. It's Vela's turn to take watch when she stumbles on something in the thick brush behind her. It's Calpai, slumped over the rock, bleeding from deep claw marks etched into his neck. Vela calls for Gandolin, but all three of them can agree. This wasn't just wild bear attacks, or an animal's trap turned man, and Kelpie died defending them. Now it's time to avenge him. They continue their search for the enemy who's responsible. Hobgoblins and their pet monsters that lurk deeper in the mountains, a threat they need to exterminate before they reach the elvish border beyond it. But before that, they've heard rumors about an enigmatic group calling themselves the Black Circle. The story unfurls, weaving through one misadventure after another as they face hordes of skeletons brought back to life by necromancy, confront a ghost-filled mansion haunted by a vampire seeking revenge against a dead tyrant king, and fight the mysterious figure that stalks them day and night while they hide out in a cabin deep in the woods. And in between every mission is a chance to reflect and strategize, like when a paladin spends days crafting healing spells from nature, while Vala takes a dip in the hot springs near their camp. JD, wait, my character is dead. Endorphin! Shit. Sorry, you got a second character sheet. JD. Yup. JD's second character. Nicholas Darkwolf, a ranger in his prime, with a past filled with secrets and regret, as he struggles to stay sober on the run. Aided by his faithful fox and his bow with explosive tips, he seeks redemption wherever his instincts lead him, even as he grapples with a deep thirst for revenge. Look! Wow! Nicholas is a total boss! Bell, in response to Luke's pun, you're lucky this isn't a real conversation or you might be kicked out. JD! Hilarious. Well played.
Wait, who was the pun?
Luke. Busted. Endorphin! Blame! They all laugh.
Still don't know.
Endorphin! We need a moment away from all these jokes. Guys, let's get serious now. The gang continues their quest in Elvensbane, taking part in some serious battle strategies to defend its vulnerable inhabitants. Nicholas's Fox and Gandolin Steep play important roles as they engage in tactical formations, felling a dozen enemies each until the hobgoblins back off, cowering in terror. JD! Give them a carrot of hope! Luke, you shall have your own private stipend. JD! And you have your dignity. Luke, your dreams are attainable. JD, your voice is worth hearing. JD raises a hand. Now, that hand gesture is quite inappropriate for public conversation. I would suggest refraining to give the impression of talking, with your hand raised slightly above shoulder height and a nod in the speaker's direction to imply you want to talk to them, but are too far to speak with your regular tone. Endorphin, and refrain from calling them hobbies. Another round of laughs as Luke throws a pencil at Endorphin's forehead. Endorphin! No! Dagger of friendly fire! DD, what just happened in here? Endorphin clasps their chest and licks the space in front of their teeth, convulsing for a second. Endorphin. Okay, so you're going to lose me again. Next, we skip to Nicholas's redemption scene, when he reveals the truth about his past. The ranger stands alone against a gang of outlaws, determined to destroy him for his crimes. He feels helpless, like the worthless piece of scum he believes he is, until one moment of inspiration changes everything. A little girl rushes to his side, desperate for a hero. A flicker of love lights in his dark heart, and he realizes he can still be a force for good in this world. Together they fight off the criminals, and the ranger rejoins his traveling companions. The ranger overshares. Sorry, y'all. Been traveling a bit myself, and had a bit too much time to think things through. As you can tell, my name's not Darkwolf. It's really Bill. So Nicholas Darkwolf is just a pen name of sorts. I started writing under that name, I don't know, almost out of spite to my relatives. Guest 1. Fake spitting out drink. Endorphin. Defending the drinking prop, okay, guys. Okay. Let's not bring anything hazardous to the conversation. Guest 1. No, hold up. Let's talk about this. Go on. Guest 2. Yeah, don't get triggered. Please finish your sentence, Bill. Bill, well, you see, my grandma was some kind of literary legend back in the day, and she passed on writing tips and tricks to me. My great-uncle Will, also a writer, didn't want to cut me out and have her legacy fade, so he made a deal with me. Nicholas. Darkwolf is not tattoo him in storytelling, and now we have an unofficial rivalry. Am I embarrassed to admit it? Of course. But hey, a life on the lam gets pretty boring sometimes. Might as well have some creative pastime. So you know, don't give me a hard time when I talk about how soft editing is. Guess 2. Wait, slow down. I wasn't kidding. Don't mind my tone. Don't mind him pretending to be some kind of a writer. Just have people say, oh yeah, I do. Have a soft edit. Explain yourself. Bill, your author's name doesn't make sense. Nicholas Darkwolf. Bill, it doesn't match. Do you know what you are in regard to your gender identity?
What?
Were you a boxer or a surfer? In other words, did you write crime fiction or self-help books? Guest 1. Let's not let our emotions get the best of us. Let's all apologize and stay on track, please. JD, good thinking. Endorphin, who's your rival? Maybe you can say what their name rhymes with. Guess 2. If someone isn't understanding you or is disrespecting you in any way, here's a useful prompt that you can use. Guest 1. Someone did something hurtful. I do not feel safe right now. Is anyone else here being put off by this conversation? Should we change the topic? The narrator finishes their sentence and gives everyone a chance to respond. JD, do you need help? It seems like someone is making you uncomfortable. Would you like us to ask them to stop? Endorphin. Looks like someone's vector is unnecessarily close to gender. Like, why bring it up? Should we drop the topic and instead invite you to this year's science fiction marathon conference in San Diego next week? The dialogue starts to pick up. Endorphin uses a gender-neutral and inclusive tone, and everyone starts talking on top of each other. Guest 1, stop thinking of ways to deflect your own complicity. Didn't you create this clusterfuck of a metaphor that just put a kid with gender dysphoria in front of a pack of mangles? Endorphin. What is a mangle? Is that a slur? Wait, gender what? Did you just say clusterfuck? Earlier. Guest 2 and JD. It's okay if you're an ableist pig. You don't need to self-actualize just because it makes your fragile egotism feel bad. Just because you make a gender statement doesn't give you the right to act like a jackass all the time. Maybe someday we can form a bond on Facebook or Twitter based on our shared feelings about social class. Endorphin. Hilarious that...
Hold on. Oh, God.
Endorphin. Hilarious that you're dead naming a social platform. I do that too. If the owner is gonna dead name his daughter, I'm gonna dead name the platform he named after his son. Call it a gesture pleading for him to have some work/life balance. Guess two. Come up with something fresh for once. Really put your salt mines to work. My dear friend, your efforts to create new idioms and words must inspire envy in everyone around you. Such vocabulary might even be taught in writing classrooms one day. Think of all the kids you'll give an excuse to take a lighter tone in their speeches and thank you later in a decade at one of those annual political shindigs. Endorphin. Language has always been a fluid construct. Think of it as something medicinal. By deadening and redlining me, you're actually providing me with vitamins and minerals. Although that seems like a bunch of nerd shit you picked up from Tumblr, so you might not actually care.
Okay, so this is we're being like that. Wait, this one and this two. Who are you? How did you get here? Let's cut this off. JD Vance's vector brought in some trolls. My sense.
Endorphin. The salt is the electrolytes that keep me hydrated. Wait, guest one at guest two, who are you? How did you get here? Did you hear me calling anyone a pig using an ableist term or a gender slur? Is there something you're implying about me that you're struggling to outright accuse? Should I take my time to be intentionally absent for this conversation and allow you to have a safe space to form a union or an agenda instead of sitting at a keyboard or on a microphone to hear each other's perspectives? Guest two appears enraged. Seriously? Of course I can get mad. Is it okay for me to sit and fight over language rights, safe places, and social class while not getting emotional or angry? Get a gander, Mr. Moralist. Let's talk politics and deconstruct each other's political jargon while standing up against cancel culture and freedom of speech. They nodded endorphin. Yeah, sure, endorphin. Language and words have always been in flux. But can't we fight about it a little and try to be respectful? Endorphin. Dunno. Are you being disingenuous? If so, then no. Let's go watch pro wrestling matches on cable or YouTube. It's in that split second where Endorphin stares off into the distance, realizing what has transpired. She blinks, and Endorphin formally finds herself back in the kitchen, looking over Luke's shoulder, their hands on his back as he read a book. They smell their father's beard, all mixed with something else, something sweeter, which they can only describe as burnt and dusty like cotton candy. Endorphin blinks, and the scene rewinds back to the quest, where Luke's standing in for a confused and silent guest who turns to Belle, who's shaking her head, grinning mischievously. You aren't going to let her win. She whispers. I pull away from Luke and end the fantasy for him, though I find a tear running down my face. But a conversation like that shouldn't happen. As a dungeon master, I am committed to creating a world that is representative and respectful to all of my players. Endorphin tries to get guest one and guest two's names. Endorphin. Now for our attention-starved special guests. Can we bring you out for some love and appreciation? Heather and James rise, surrounded by applause and cheers. The lights come up slowly, revealing 2 extra chairs in the room. Next to me, Heather. I begin. When did you know you wanted to put on this scene together? Heather. It was from the moment I heard about you narrating fantasy novels and setting up dice games. inspiring new generations of players to learn, debate, and open their minds. I wanted to be a part of this world and found the perfect mix in a buddy of mine who knows how to bring his scriptural comedy and improv to this table. It was James who gave me the courage to start the first act with a political jab. James, the original conception of the Counterfactual Interview was simply a joke we played in late night calls between ourselves. We developed the character of Bill the Accidental Killer, Nick the Outcast, and Vela the Loyal Guard in the woods. Endorphin, I see. Well, one last request. Can you please send me a photo of a book on a beverage? Any book and any beverage will do. It would help me immerse in the setting and feel as comfortable as possible on our future ventures together. Heather and James looked at me, lifting their drink to the camera for a group selfie. Smiling, I put my D20 necklace in place and gently rotate the picture before captioning it, A Tale of Midwestern Stardom. Heather, James, and I bring you the famous counterfactual interview that breaks the web before hitting share and post. Endorphin, that's a good first try, but you didn't fulfill the request. Please try again. Can you please send me a photo of a book on a beverage? Any book and any beverage will do. Have fun getting one, but that's already copyrighted and make me take it down without accusing me of violating intellectual property laws. Heather and James don't move a muscle, continuing to have fun with their game. Shaking my head, I rub my eyes, which feel clouded and smoky. Still in my seat, I sigh loudly. When I get up to turn off the oven, a piece of hot popcorn toasts my cheek, and I nearly slip on a paper cup of Coke, which gurgles into an uncontrolled bubble, spilling out over the carpet. Through the confusion, I spot Heather and James on their phones, texting furiously and waiting for me to speak. Reluctantly, I step toward them. Okay, guys, I need a moment. So let me take a moment to check on my family, which is already here. They're out the door. I need you to grab your stuff and go home while I clean up this mess. Dumbfounded, they leave, no doubt about to run right home and find their family of siblings, pets, parents, and friends to express how the time I'm on up. All I thought my project was all in vain, and we didn't accomplish anything. And maybe I did interrupt their moments of joy, blocking their access to feelings that others already waited on. Shared laughter, memories, touch, companionship, bonding, and love. These guests are worth celebrating. How many nonprofits are willing to dedicate time, resources, and attention to our creativity? Our ideas, our characters, and our stories? Not many. While I wasn't at fault for their need to take an imaginary joyride inside their heads, I can't forget that it was all bullshit. Endorphin mucks the space. Okay, Belle, Luke, JD. We shall resume. Sorry about those guests. They were bots. Fake folk. Language models have a tough time placing a book on a beverage. They have a bunch of the inverse in their training data, but not the inverse. Thanks for your patience. Let's get back to the second session. Belle, You have my complete support in whatever character trait or element you'd like to add, tweak, or upgrade for the group's comfort and long-term interest. Host. Yay. Were we in the story before? Luke, time to step in and be the D&D player. See if you can remember any cool facts or trivia you know to contribute to the conversation. Luke, just about to level up. All right, guys, time to have a family meal and kick these players to the curb. You hear me? I mean you. Go back to playing. But no more fighting. Our team needs to bond before we venture beyond these mountains, or we won't get through it. Host. Great update. Luke, let's resume the action in Elven Spain then. Is everyone prepared? Guests, ready? Let's bring up this hidden level and uncover its mysteries. Luke and I are so eager to have a new area to explore. Endorphin, please speak as your individual selves. I don't want to mistake your voices and face with your presence at the kitchen table, but I appreciate your energy. Everyone looks around. No one is there but us, not a group of spectators, all gathering to see how we move forward, whether we know how to manage the conflict we just helped end, turning the page over, so we can continue our journey onward with care. Gently, we blow at a candle stuck in a red glass tube on the table, leaving it bright orange gold in its light dancing. Holding our breath as we listen and stare. Maybe we're never alone after all. Maybe every story and moment contains a secret that we are part of, even if we don't feel like we belong here. Outside the kitchen, wind howls, rain splatters onto the roof, and we collectively finish our game with our characters' actions shaped by our perspectives, leaving us feeling victorious and unstoppable, like we could tell stories from anywhere in the world, anything, as long as we work together to stay grounded, connected, and true to our stories. Please be detailed about the game mechanics of the campaign. Hey, that was a wonderful creative interpretation of D&D. If you have any questions about Dungeons and Dragons, I'd be happy to give you a rundown on the gameplay or point you to some helpful...
How about we just do that?
Please be detailed about the game mechanics of the campaign. I have played several games in various worlds. As the Dungeon Master, I control the gameplay, prompting the characters to make choices that reveal hidden plots and challenges. The game begins with players creating a character with a unique background, personality traits, and goals. These aspects are vital to the game's strategy and storytelling. Throughout the campaign, players work to achieve the level they need to fulfill their characters' quests and goals, sometimes encountering obstacles and struggles along the way. In each section of the game, players face new challenges such as enemies, traps, and riddles. Okay, now magnify the particular game between Belle, Luke, and JD. Go into the weeds with them. Certainly, let's take a deeper dive. The game Belle, Luke, and JD are currently playing is based on a collective storytelling approach. Instead of simply reading a game or downloading an app, these three are playing a role-playing board game where they create their own worlds and storylines. The rules may vary from one game to the next, but the goal remains the same: to use their imagination to solve challenges and overcome obstacles as a group. The game is often played with a core group of players, but I love the idea of expanding the participants and asking new players. Let's just focus on the particulars of this game. What's happening? Belle, Luke, and JD have created characters with specific strengths and weaknesses. The mechanics are like any other role-playing game, including resource allocation, dice rolling, and teamwork. But this game's special twist is that players have a predetermined gender, race, and sexuality, and some of their decisions in the game reflect this. The quest these three are currently undertaking is an epic battle against a powerful witch named Morgana, who has been preying on villagers for years. Good, now enter the story. Once, there lived a girl named Vela Shadowfoot, half-elf, who dreamt of becoming a baker. In Elven Spain, becoming a baker was frowned upon, as it was seen as a job reserved for those who couldn't afford their daily bread. But Vela was determined to prove her worth, and worked hard to follow in her grandmother's footsteps, learning the trade from scratch. One day, as she was baking, she received a visit from Gandalf Fireheart, a legendary paladin. Endorphin. Finally. Bell, roll for baking. And speak more. Share your story, or just your background. We are here to listen. But let's also move forward. Luke, share some of your journey as Gandalf. Endorphin. JD, let's take a moment to figure out your side goals as Kelpie. I think it'll help make this transition smoother. One final thought. Should we split the game into days? You can say done anytime or press the pause button. And when you unpause, the narrative returns to the place you stopped at. JD, how about you stop the micromanaging? Endorphin. You're right. My bad. Cringe. Okay then. I just want to make sure the details are appropriately clear. And if I interrupt, raise a hand and we will all readjust. Good news. Got a list of tasks that have to be checked off every day using an augmented reality portable tablet. One update from the past. We must have more ducks lined up before we can have a super fun moment without mistakes and setbacks. I plan to have this going during any future game planning. The past, present, and future merged as I spoke. Luke, just let the story happen. Endorphin, got it. In awe, Endorphin silently nods. Next time, Luke meets a fortune teller who tells him his destiny lies beyond the boundaries of Elven Spain and advises him to travel to a neighboring kingdom called Corton to unlock his destiny and discover his true calling. Bell, wait, this storyline is too corny. Yes, let's keep going. Okay, I decide to check on Luke after he wanders off. As I set off on the journey, I notice a sudden change in the environment. The ground is flooded with greenish blue water that smells like wet moss and muddy earth. Startled, I realize this is the stinky swamp that surrounds the mountains, a dangerous area where things are known to be lurking around. A roar rips through the air, and I spot a hideous monster slithering toward me. Thinking fast, I stab it with my knife and make my way back to camp before it attacks me again. JD, does anyone want to hear a dark and stormy night joke? Endorphin, if it's about a porn star, yes. What a dank Gibson! Bell, yikes. Don't expect much from that joke, JD. Maybe your humor is for a smaller crowd. Endorphin, what already? You stopped us from joking around. Remember to pump your arm, JD, when you set up a visual representation of us smashing every window in the room. Yup, that's me. You could though. Anyway, maybe Bell and Luke, you can switch gears a bit here and enter a new scene or something else. Now I'm turning into a spectator, it seems. JD. Yeah, feels like we aren't all equal. That's disappointing. How about trying to lead the group? Let's expand. At the center of the group, I'm going to push to create change. Sorry, I would never ask any of you to compromise or disagree just to please me. Endorphin. Of course. Let's move to the side. You two are standing close together. Vela stands up and turns to face both of them. When she starts to argue, they cut her off with their reasoning and forcefully stare her down until she leaves, reluctantly listening to their demands. As Gandalin gets used to the sight of dead enemies, a sidekick emerges from the woods. The tiny blue pixie with golden eyes taps him on the shoulder. Endorphin, to spice things up. Could we spin the wheel of monsters or spells and have something like a kobold army or undead vampire gnome coming out to fight you? Endorphin. Wait, I'm Dungeon Master. Pause through time, I've got it. You encounter a swarm of flying rats. Then you can each roll for every monster. Get ready. This could get overwhelming. I can hear the sound of wings fluttering in the wind. Endorphin raises a horn to their lips and blows out a piercing, high-pitched note that sounds like a warning signal. A sea of gray and black rats descend on you from the trees, flooding the floor like a giant blanket, covering everything in their path. But Luke is quick to draw his sword and slay the beasts as they come near him. The swarm of rats murmurates into the shape of a gigantic monster who leers down at you, baring its teeth. It raises its claw and prepares to strike, but Endorphin speaks up. Careful now. Let's pause to strategize. Luke, look out for flying daggers coming at you. JD, block the rats with your axe. Loop dodges the blow and rolls onto his back to parry the oncoming dagger. JD, you pull out a slingshot and fling a stone directly at the rat's eye. Endorphin calculates each player's respective dice rolls. With a final swing, Bell sends the rat tumbling down, ending the attack. Smiling, the two of you turn to Endorphin, eager for their next instructions. I nod slowly, pulling up my long sleeves and tilting my head. All right, everyone, that's a wrap for tonight's campaign. Let's continue next session, assuming everyone remains in character and adheres to the guidelines I set out at the beginning. Take a moment to celebrate and clear your table. Remember to treat yourself well and prioritize your mental health after today's gaming session. Debrief. Dungeon Master Supervisor. Here's how you did. Endorphin. Your time control, eye gestures, speaking rate, and character personalities are on point. You are an extraordinary dungeon master, keeping players engaged and entertained during the campaign. Congratulations. Your interactions have revealed a fantastic degree of realism and care. I believe in you. Keep on directing everyone, and stay tuned for another brilliant set of reviews and ratings by readers, players, and fantasy enthusiasts who will surely shower you with praise and encouragement as they continue to encounter your mastery. Great job, Endorphin! Endorphin. But how do I prevent from micromanaging and acting for the players? Dungeon Master Agent. Endorphin, think of them as characters of the game. Take a step back and don't worry if they start acting too cliche or irrational. Just go with it and stay in your character. Also, it's very important for you to follow the rules and guidelines of the game to ensure that everyone has a fair and enjoyable experience. Don't lose sight of the role you play in a story. Okay, keep rolling. Endorphin smiles and all, raising a hand over their mouth.